بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. The composition of the army of Imam Hassan alayhi salam in his confrontation with the army of Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. Some people call it the Iraqi army versus the Syrian army, but I don't like this name. It's the army of Imam Hassan and Ahlulbayt versus the army of Bani Umayyah and Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. The confrontation between truth and justice and guidance versus misguidance, falsehood and injustice. The army of Imam Hassan was made of strange, mixed. It was composed of different fractions that were not harmonious with each other. When you read the books of history, and there are so many books that have written and discussed in details about the type of the army that did exist on both sides. So when they come to the army of Imam Hassan, they say one group of them were the Kharijites. Those Kharijites who murdered Imam Ali. And they didn't like Muawiyah either. So they decided to join the camp of Imam Hassan to take revenge from Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. Not necessarily being loyal to Imam Hassan, not necessarily respecting him, adhering to him, or loving him. But they wanted the intiqam, the revenge, retaliation against Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. This is why the only way for them to fight Muawiyah is to join the army of Imam Hassan. The second group were the pro-Umayyad group inside the army of Imam Hassan. Those who were disloyal to Imam Hassan and loyal to Muawiyah, but they lived in Kufa, and they decided that halfway through they will betray the Imam, they will commit a treason, and even they will hand in the Imam to Muawiyah. And this was a very dangerous group. And many members of them were part of the military contingency of Imam Hassan alayhi salam. The city of Kufa was a cosmopolitan city, my friends. People were different. People subscribed to every creed, to every political party, to every religion. And therefore, there were no harmony between them. They were not all consistent with each other, in agreement with each other. So that was the second group. The third group was the swinging, if you will, the swinging groups. They didn't care who's going to win and who's going to lose, as long as they make money, as long as they obtain war booties, ghanaim. That is enough for them. They don't care whether Imam Hassan is right or wrong, whether Muawiyah is right or wrong. They really don't care. All what they care about is the dunya, is the personal gains, financial gains of this dunya, to make money. And now in many countries, my friends, some people join the army, the military, the navy, not because they believe in this cause, not because they believe in defending their land and their country and their territory, but they want to defend their own interests, personal interests, because it's an opportunity, provides them with economic opportunities. It's a source of livelihood, source of living. It's a source of income. This is why they join. And this group did exist during the time of the Prophet too. Some people would join the army with the Prophet to create a commotion, a division from within the army, to weaken the spirit of the army. So this was the third group among the army of Imam Hassan alayhi salam. And then you have, last but not least, the small minority of the sincere and dedicated people of Kufa, true and loyal people to Ahlulbayt, to the truth, to justice, to Imam Hassan alayhi salam. Imam Hassan in Madain, in one of the stops along this war, it was the city of Madain, near Baghdad. He addressed his army. He said, look at you. Look at the difference between you today and you yesterday. During the battle of Siffin, the reason why we won that battle against Muawiyah is that وَكُنْتُمْ فِي مَسِيرِكُمْ إِلَى صِفِّينَ وَدِينُكُمْ أَمَامَكُمْ. When you took off to Siffin to meet Muawiyah earlier, couple of years earlier, during the time of Imam Ali, your faith was before you. Your faith was guiding you. Your belief was guiding you. وَأَصْبَحْتُمُ الْيَوْمَ وَدُنْيَاكُمْ أَمَامَ دِينِكُمْ. But today, now that we are moving to meet Muawiyah and face him and face his army, your dunya is before your religion. Materialism is before faith. These interests of the dunya are before the interests of the akhirah. And Muawiyah, he knew exactly the weakness of the people of Kufa. He knew what they have been composed of. Therefore, he used psychological warfare against them, to weaken them, to destroy them from within, to destroy their morale, their spirit. So the first thing he did, he said, I'm not here to fight. I'm here for a ceasefire, for sulh, for peace and reconciliation. But he was not true. Muawiyah, his intention was to fight. His intention was to invade and occupy and destroy what has been left of Ahlulbayt in the city of Kufa. Muawiyah's intention was to dominate, absolute dominance of the Islamic society and Islamic countries. So Imam Hassan alayhi salam asked his first cousin, Obaidullah ibn Abbas. Ubaidullah is the son of Al-Abbas. Al-Abbas, not the brother of Imam Hussein. Al-Abbas is the uncle of the Prophet. Al-Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib, the paternal uncle of the Prophet. Asked his son Ubaidullah, the brother of Abdullah, two brothers, Abdullah and Ubaidullah. So he asked Ubaidullah to assume the leadership, the command of the army, which was almost maybe 12. Some people put that number at 12,000, some people say 20,000. And goes to meet Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan. And he says, فَإِنْ أَنْتَ لَقِيتَهُ فَاحْتَبِسْهُ حَتَّى آتِيكَ. Put the confrontation on hold until I reach to you. I want you to go ahead of me, because Imam Hassan wanted to bring more troops. He was in charge of encouraging and stimulating the rest of the tribes in Kufa and around Iraq, so they would come with him and join him. So he sent Ubaidullah ibn Abbas with the 12,000 fighters so they can prevent Muawiyah from proceeding, because Muawiyah was moving. And then he said, you have to consult those two loyal disciples in your army. One of them is Qais ibn Sa'd ibn Ibadah. The second one is Sa'id ibn Qais. فإن لقيت معاوية فلا تقاتله حتى يقاتلك. You do not instigate, you do not begin, you do not initiate the war against him until he begins. If he begins, then you may defend yourself, but do not be the beginner of the war. Don't. وإن أصبت فقيس بن سعد على الناس فإن أصيب فسعيد بن قيس على الناس. If something happens to you, O Ubaidullah, then the one who succeeds you is Qais ibn Sa'd ibn Ibadah. If something happens to Qais ibn Sa'd ibn Ibadah, then Sa'id ibn Qais is going to succeed him. Now the army of Imam Hassan reaches a city called Maskan, and they camp there. Once they camp there, rumors break out that Imam Hassan is negotiating ceasefire and peace agreement with Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, which was not true. But that is the work of Muawiyah himself. Muawiyah will designate some people to go into the army, infiltrate the army, and spread these rumors, false rumors, that listen, you don't have to fight, don't waste your time, because your leader Imam Hassan, your Imam, is already having secret negotiations with Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. So you know what such rumors would do to the morale and the spirit of the army, because they would consider this as a betrayal. On the one hand, Imam Hassan tells them, you must go and fight. On the other hand, now he's having secret negotiations with Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan. So these news and rumors were reaching the army, and of course Obaidullah ibn Abbas is the leader of that army. So he was confused in the beginning, but as these rumors increased, he was certain that something is going on and he is unaware of it. Some people would believe, some people do not believe, some people were shocked. And Imam Hassan was not present among the army at that time. He was still in An-Nukhayla. His army is in Maskan, two different cities. And therefore, the army of Imam Hassan, which is made of 12,000, was about to face the army of Syria, Muawiyah, which is made of 60,000. And the leader of the army goes through uncertainty and confusion. And then Muawiyah kept sending him temptations, generous promises that abandon the army of Hassan, leave him, come to my side. And he promised to give him ألف dirham, 1 million dirham, 1 million dirham. That's a huge amount of money. And my friends, every human being, not just Obaidullah ibn Abbas, every human being goes through a test, a daily test. The hadith says, قد يصبح الرجل مؤمنا ويمسي كافرا وقد يمسي كافرا ويصبح مسلما. Every individual in this life goes through a test. He could wake up in the morning while he's on the state of faith and firm belief. But by the end of the day, in the evening, he reverts back to polytheism. Maybe at night he goes to bed while he does not believe in God, but he wakes up in the morning as a believer in God. This means that this life fluctuates, my friends. It's not stable. People keep changing. Most people keep changing and swaying and swinging. And many of the people, when they are faced with a severe test and examination, many of them fail when it comes to the dunya. الناس عبيد الدنيا. For people are enslaved to this life, to the temptations of this life. And therefore, Obaidullah ibn Abbas, when he received this rich promise from Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan, that I will grant you amnesty, I will give you 1 million dirham, which is a huge amount, and also I will appoint you Jundan min Ajnadi, as a governor of one of my provinces when I became caliph, once you abandon and desert your post and leave the army. These are temptations, my friends. We might go through that. Every person, me, you, everybody else would go through these tests. We receive some offers, generous offers, lucrative offers. Do this for me, and in return, you will receive such and such and such. If you read about the drug dealers, the drug cartels, and see how they succeed. They succeed in bribing important officials of their countries and other countries in the government, including the president, including the interior minister, the defense minister, the intelligence, the army. They bribe them with a huge amount of money. It happens in every country. It could happen to every person. It's only faith in God, it's only righteousness and piety and fear of God which prevents us from accepting that bribe and being failed in that test. Unfortunately, Obaidullah ibn Abbas failed, and he accepted the offer from Muawiyah, and he deserted his post, and he abandoned the army. All of a sudden, the camp of Imam Hassan wakes up in the morning in Maskan, where the army was gathered, and the news break out that the commander-in-chief of the army himself deserted his post. He ran away towards Syria, towards Muawiyah's army, Muawiyah's camp. And with him, history says 8,000 people deserted their post. 8,000 soldiers. When they saw the top commander of the army is leaving and running away, they felt that the army is collapsing. And in fact, the army was collapsing, plunging down in turmoil, in disarray. The army collapsed when the commander left his post. This incident sent waves of joy and happiness into Muawiyah's camp, but sadness, disbelief and shock in the camp of Imam Hassan alayhi salam. If the army was 12,000 and 8,000 deserted, then the remaining are only 4,000. If the army, let's say, was 20,000 and 8,000 deserted the army, then those who are left are 12,000. 12,000 definitely cannot confront 60,000, 12,000 soldiers who have been demoralized by the betrayals, by the treason, by the act of unfaithfulness of their leaders, their commanders, their army generals, would not be able to meet and face an army of 60,000 who are promised the best salaries, the best positions, the best extravagance. When Obaidullah ibn Abbas ran away, Qais ibn Sa'd ibn Ibadah, this noble man, the loyal man, the son of Sa'd ibn Ibadah, his father declined to pay allegiance to Abu Bakr the day of Saqifa. And then he was murdered by a scheme which was orchestrated by the second caliph. He was assassinated in Sham, in Syria, in the Syrian territory. And then they claimed that the jinn assassinated him. نحن قتلنا سعد بن عبادة ورميناه بسهمين فلم نخطئ فؤاده. Books of history say this is the jinn. Recitation of jinn. Can you believe? Can you believe this? The jinn, they murder someone and then they make up poetry about his murder. It was us who murdered him, and we targeted his heart with 2 arrows. But it wasn't the jinn. That jinn was someone else. Go and check his name in the book of history. However, this man, Qais ibn Sa'd ibn Ibadah, came and he gave assurance to the army. He said, if the leader of this army has deserted his post, Imam Hassan is there and we are there. We are not going to leave him. It reminds me of chapter 3 in the Quran, Surah Al-Imran. God says about the Muslims when they deserted the Prophet Muhammad in the middle of the battlefield. إِذْ تُصْعِدُونَ وَلَا تَلْوُونَ عَلَىٰ أَحَدٍ وَالرَّسُولُ يَدْعُوكُمْ فِي أُخْرَاكُمْ. Only 7 people remained with the Prophet. 6 men and 1 lady. The entire Muslim contingency and army and companions ran away from the Prophet. Same thing happened with his grandson Imam Hassan. In his confrontation with Muawiyah, who happens to be the grandson of Abu Sufyan, who spearheaded the army of Quraysh against Prophet Muhammad in the battle of Badr and Uhud and many other battles. So history repeats itself. He said, we will stand with Imam Hassan. But that group was a smaller group, and we will see soon what will happen to that group and what are the consequences of this meltdown and the breakdown and the collapse of the army of Imam Hassan alayhi salam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.